What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Mentors Collective, where we bring you some of the best mentors in all kinds of subjects, health, business, and so on. Today, we have an extra special mentor for you. If there's any pre-meds listening right now or any aspiring doctors at all, you're going to want to tune in, turn the volume up, because today we have Zachary also known as the MCAT Motivator on Instagram. This guy has been a force of nature, and he is going to give you all of his secrets on how to really succeed in that MCAT. And I'm just going to leave it at that. He's been an awesome force. He's the Gary V of MCAT motivation. If you haven't already checked his stuff out, be sure to get over there. With all of that, I'm going to kick it over to Zach. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Dr. J, and thank you for that awesome introduction. So, hi, everyone. If you don't know me, my name is Zachary. I'm from Windsor, Ontario, Canada. Instagram, I'm known as the MCAT Motivator. And my story is, I'll kind of explain it to you. I'll give you a quick rundown. So in high school, I was a high 80s, low 90s student. Never really struggled, never really had to work hard in high school. So it geared me towards the sciences. My freshman year of college, I actually failed out of university. The students can't believe when I show them my transcripts that there's such a thing as an F-. So what I did at the end of my freshman year is I called the dean of my program and I said, blah, 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 his name. What do I have to do in order to get reinstated back in? And he said, Zach, maybe college isn't right for you. And I'll never forget that conversation because it kind of led me in two possible pathways, right? You have a credible dean of your program telling you something and you're 18 or you're 19 and you have all this freedom and no structure. You can agree with it and then you can just go do something else, or you can use that as fuel. And what I've learned throughout this process is your biggest failures are actually your biggest strengths, even though you don't realize it at the time. So I went from failing out of university to having to do a year of undeclared. And pretty much I turned into a 4.0 student overnight. I finished my degree at the University of Windsor in kinesiology. And then I did my post-bachelor in pre-medical studies at Lawrence Technological University, then excelled on the MCAT. And now here I am with a gap year waiting to start medical school, hopefully for June of 2020. But I have a year's time and I was, what can I do with my time to really, really help others? Because there's so many lessons I learned and I haven't really had the time to share it. But obviously I really enjoy it. So I figured I would just share my story. My first Instagram post was my transcript, just throw myself out there and see who would respond. And then this thing is kind of like tethered into really trying to create as much of an impact as I possibly can and help as many students who have maybe not failed at a university or got a C or a D, because there's so much on the internet that says you have to be perfect from day one and what happens when you're not. And I just want to be a living, breathing example of what you can do. And today's a starting point, not your end.
Man, I absolutely love that story. I know I've spoken a little bit about this before, but I actually had something similar happen. I got in some trouble with the law and ended up really, not getting into the school that I want, thinking that there's no way that I can come back from this, that I can rally and do it. But I used it as a driving force when people didn't expect anything of me. And I was like, this is not going to be my life. And you get your crap together and you go on and you use it as fuel, just as you said. Very beautifully said. Again, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being here. Let's get right into it though. You are the MCAT motivator. You're the MCAT expert.
Yeah.
Tell me your experience with this test.
Yeah, that's a good question, right? So my experience with the test is, so like I explained, I turned into a 4.0 student. So when I was done my post-backs, I had all the 4.0 science classes that I supposedly needed to excel in the MCAT. And then the MCAT just hit me like a brick wall, because I thought if I just go memorize these textbooks, I'll do well on this test, just like I did in my undergrad, just like I did in my post-bac. But what I learned early on in the MCAT world is the MCAT is not a science test. It is a standardized reading comprehension test splashed in with the sciences, right? So we need to be good with passage-based learning and full-length tests. And that's not something that I wanted to incorporate, and a lot of students don't want to incorporate early because you're afraid of failure. So this whole prep took me about 6 months when it should have taken me maybe 3 or 4. I purchased a Kaplan, one of those online courses, and I was about 2 weeks away from writing, and I did a practice test and I scored a 496. I remember asking myself, am I even going to be a doctor? I did so much work. I got put out all this extra time and money. And one of my friends who scored a 527, which is 100th percentile. Wow. He reached out to me. He's like, Zach, we need to really incorporate strategy. And what I want you to do is I want you to do as many practice tests as you can in the next 6 weeks, which brought me to actually September 19th, which is the last possible day you could write in 2018. So I was kind of desperate at that point. So I really had no reason not to take his advice. So what I did over the next 42 days is I wrote 21 practice tests and my score went up 20 points. And I don't say that to like brag, I'm just showing the magnitude of what full-length endurance and learning and passages and just the emphasis of what that can do on your score. So my biggest emphasis is that for students, but don't condense it in 6 weeks like that. Start that process early on, and the sky's the limit. You really can take your score as long as you're willing to feel uncomfortable throughout the entire process and just learn through your failures.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So another question for you. I know we started to touch on some strategy that you were just offering.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I haven't taken the MCAT. I guess it's been like 4 years now. It's been quite a while. I know it's probably changed a lot. So tell me a little bit about specific strategies that you use to prepare for this test, specific resources that you suggest your students use, and just an overall game plan that people should be following if they really want to set themselves up for success on this test.
Absolutely. So what I tell most students to do is set 6 months aside. Not obviously 6 months where anything's like everything's obviously there's other commitments you have, whether it's work, school, life. I get that. But 6 months. In the first 4 to 6 weeks of your 6 month process, I want you to focus on there's 4 sections of the MCAT. The first section is cars. So that's the section that most science students don't usually like. That's the reading comprehension section with those philosophy and those Shakespeare passages that you don't want to touch. So what I get students to do, and what I recommend most students to do, is do one CARS passage a day, every single day for 7 days. And each day I want you to sit down and I want you to figure out which question styles you got incorrect. So say it was inference-based questions. So then at the end of the week, I want you to see the one style of question that you noticed was the most common. And what you're going to do is find one problem every week and come up with 3 strategies you're going to implement for the following week. And then each week you only focus on one problem. And then obviously over the next 4 to 6 weeks, those problems get resolved and CARS is no longer an issue. But why am I saying start with CARS and doing all this assess, readjust? Because once you have changed the way you supposedly think and you're incorporating these strategies with CARS, the science passages are no different. Obviously, there's content we're going to want to learn, but I want to give you the backbone of the reading comprehension test. So you do the first 4 to 6 weeks of CARS, and then you break down it into 3 phases. Number 1 is going to be passage-based learning, and UWorld has a really, really strong program for that. I recommend the 90-day access to it. Number 2 is the practice tests. When I say practice tests, I'm referring to the third-party full-length practice tests. I suggest students to get anywhere between 10 and 12, depending on obviously their budget and their timeline, and good resources for that are Exam Krackers, Next Step, and Altius. And then the third thing you need to purchase, which is the gold standard, is the AAMC material, which I recommend students to use for the last 6 weeks, which includes section banks, full lengths, and question packs. And I usually recommend most students to complete it at least twice for the AMC material. I consider the AMC material like a relationship with like my girlfriend or my parents. They're just a test writer. They're just a human like me or you. The more we can get in their brain, the more we can see their common their tone or their traps, and we're able to really incorporate those things early, and we feel confident with tackling their material. I'll do like sessions one-on-one with students for an hour, and about 58 minutes of the hour, we won't talk about any content. And students won't even realize that to the last 2 minutes. I'll be like, we never talked about anything. But that's the biggest thing I can recommend is, as you can see, starting questions early. And throughout those 3 phases, I never isolated once a content phase. So throughout that entire time, up until the day before you write, you're always going to be learning content. Just don't isolate a content phase, because that's not going to translate to test day success. So if I really just said it really quick, it'd be CARS, passage-based learning, third-party tests, then AMC material. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. So strategy is huge, obviously. And then just practice, practice, practice.
Right, exactly.
So love your approach to this. Give me some resources that you suggest people use other than the AMC practice test. What books are hot right now? What classes are hot right now?
Yeah.
What do you usually suggest your students use?
Yeah, so in regards to books, I work for Exam Krackers, but I love their books in regards to how they approach not just the content, but also how to learn it, and like more importantly, the tone of each passage they go over. They go over strategy really well. So Exam Krackers books are excellent. In terms of free resources, there's a ton of good resources out there. So number 1 is obviously Khan Academy. Number 2 is YouTube. And when I say YouTube, I mean go on a tangent and just search up certain subjects until you find someone that speaks to you. And there's a lot of good teachers out there on YouTube. So there's not one right answer. It's about what sticks with you. What do you find that works for you? Number 3 is obviously Anki. So I'm assuming in medical school you use a lot of Anki. So that spaced repetition, that's really good for the psych-soc section of the MCAT. So if we haven't really kind of gone over the MCAT, so it's chemistry, physics, there's CARS, there's biochem, and then there's psych-soc. And in terms of like this content strategy continuum, CARS is 100% strategy. And then on the other end, I'm going to say psych-soc is mostly content. So it's that undergrad mindset. And then chem, phys, biochemist somewhere in between of you need content, you need strategy. So psych social is really good for Anki is what I'm trying to get with that, for spaced repetition. You can also Google the Khan Academy 300-page document and the 86-page document. And what those are all the Khan Academy videos for psychology and sociology that have been transcribed into text form, which are awesome resources to use. The second thing you can also do is search Khan Academy Dropbox audio file, which a lot of students don't know about. And then that gets it in podcast form, which is awesome for when you're at the gym, shower, driving, all that filler time you have. You can actually passively be learning one section and be really strong in it without having to put much effort in. Because Psych Soc is a section of those 50-50 definitions, and you need to have a good example for both to be able to determine confidently which answer it is.
Very cool. And I've used most of those resources in my time too, except for the podcasting. I didn't know about that. But yeah, Khan Academy saved my life. YouTube, I still use for everything. I think it's one of the best resources out there. So that's awesome. How about MCAT classes? I actually took Kaplan's MCAT review course when I was a pre-med. I'm not sure how much value I got out of it, but do you recommend people sign up for intensive MCAT prep classes?
My personal answer is it depends on the student, right? Depends on how they learn, what their timeline is. The issue I have with a lot of these courses is they teach students how to learn or how to study. And whatever's worked for you up to this point as an undergrad, as maybe a 4.0 or a 3.8 student, don't just discredit that and change everything for one test. All right. I want you to incorporate strategies, but use the study skills and the study tools that you use. Personally, talk to the student, find out if self-study or online or in class, what's best for them. The issue I find with a lot of these programs is they pressure students into spending thousands of dollars. And if you don't spend thousands, you're not going to go to medical school. And I don't strongly agree with that sentiment, so to speak. So as I explained before, I purchased a Kaplan course for $3,000 and I felt like I got lost in the shuffle. I was in these constant chats where people are always answering questions fast and I felt behind the pace, and I was if I was to redo it again, I would only do it if it was a one-on-one approach. Otherwise, I would do self-study with having someone has experience with the test.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
That's my personal recommendation. And that's kind of how I built my program, was around, if you're going to get mentor tutorship, I think tutors, it needs to be one-on-one. This 30-to-1 or 60-to-1 isn't really what's going to help you as a student, because most students who want to write the MCAT are already willing to work hard. They just want to work smart, right?
Yeah, everyone wants an edge, and people think that this $3,000 Kaplan course is going to give them an edge. I took it. I don't think I got any benefit out of it, but exactly like you said, it's a person-to-person basis. I did have a personal tutor for the USMLE, and I think that helped a ton.
Exactly.
And it was just strategy. We really went over the questions, and everything that I got wrong, we would just go over my thinking, my mind process, thinking about each question. He's like, no, you need to think more clinically. He really just pointed me in the right direction in terms of strategy and how to think. And I think that's why personal tutors are so important. So I love that answer as well.
Well, they find your gaps, and then you're just going to be plateauing and then burning out, right? It defeats that, which is a vicious cycle, as you know, I would imagine, through your academics learning that.
So I've taken several grueling tests in the years, the MCAT, USMLE 1 and 2. It's hard to stay motivated, especially when you have to study for months and months at a time, sometimes 12-hour days, and sometimes you just feel like you're not retaining, you're not in the zone. And this is you. I mean, this is your thing, is motivating people to keep going when they're feeling down, feeling beat, to really try and push through and get the score that they want. What kind of strategies or tactics do you have to really stay in that mindset and motivate yourself when you've been doing this for already months at a time, and maybe after several months your score is still not improving? How do you recover from that?
I've gotten a lot of backlash the last few weeks about this whole MCAT motivator and saying motivation is good but discipline is better, and I've heard a lot of those things, and my response to that is, are you motivated by a goal or are you motivated by a purpose, right? If you're motivated by a purpose, that's innate. That's not going to ever change. You need to set that and find that. When you can find that, you really can, obviously success just becomes a byproduct of it. So, but in terms of answering your question, I kind of came up with 8 things that I use that I think students can use to consistently stay motivated and reassess and obviously attain the goals that they want to reach. So let's go over them. So number 1 is setting one goal. So instead of setting these 8 or 10 or 12 or 14, just set one goal and excel in that direction. That's the first. Keep it simple, right? Number 2 is find inspiration. So like yourself, you inspire me. Find someone in your life that you want, that inspires you, right? It's very simple. Whether it's like me, it's like Gary V, Dr. Eric Thomas, or Dr. J, or just anyone who inspires you. Surround yourself with people who inspire you. Number 3 is build anticipation. I like this one a lot. So whenever I get motivated, the first thing I want to do is get started like right away. But I actually am against that. I'd rather you set a specific date and a specific time that you want to start, so that way you can build some anticipation for it, plan for it, and actually use this sort of this obligation that you, so to speak, as an opportunity, right? And just really fully indulge in that experience. Number 4 is kind of why I use social media, posting your goal. Right? So staying accountability, that's what I am. I'm a strategy and accountability coach, but you can do the same thing in your own life if you post it on social media, or you post it on your bathroom mirror or on your bedside. Like on my bedside, I have a frame of my first year transcript. So when I woke up every morning, I would look at that. There's just like posting your goal, reminding yourself why you're doing this. Number 5 kind of goes with the same thing, commit publicly. So whether it's your family, friends, social media, whatever you feel comfortable with, but telling people so you know in a week or in a month from now, they're going to ask you, and you know that, and that kind of like helps kickstart that as well. Number 6, in terms of family and friends, let's get support, right? Nobody can do this on their own. And I've learned that the hard way, and now I've learned this in an awesome way through this whole Instagram, is the incredible support that you can get if you reach out and you are humble and you're willing to learn. Because so many people like yourself or others have done so much and have learned so much. Why go through their same mistakes if you can just learn through them and then like take it into the next step? So get support. Number 7, build on small successes, right? There's no such thing as like, I want to be Dr. Oz, right? So like instead of I want to be Dr. Oz, I want to excel on this quiz, then this midterm, then this final, then this MCAT, then this med school. Just like gradually build upon each other and use like inertia to take you to the next level. And the last one is squash negative thoughts, replace them with positive ones. So anxiety and depression and I can't do this, try to just replace those sentences, or maybe I can do this, to just, I can do this, or this is going to be an awesome opportunity to see how far I can take myself, or whatever. I do that with my students all the time when they text me. They text me in this passive or this, maybe I can do this way, and we just adjust it. We just need to constantly change the way you think, replace it with positive ones, and you'll be surprised how much your outlook will play an effect on your results. That's kind of my 8 steps that I came up with, or I think
I
it's
love
good.
your 8 steps. Absolutely love them. And I follow a lot of the same people, the Gary Vaynerchuk. Tony Robbins is a big one that I follow, Tom Bilyeu. And I've noticed a trend with people who also follow them as they seem to, they write their goals on their wall. I do that myself. I write my goals every single week. It's all over my apartment. I had them custom made on canvas. I put it everywhere. And I think that really helps. It helps to surround yourself by it, to constantly be seeing it and consuming it, listening to it on your way to work and back. It's not just about the studying. It's about surrounding yourself with it and being consumed in that life. I love your 8 things. I think those are going to be really helpful for people. What are your goals with MCAT Motivator? What is next for you? Where do you see this in 1, 5, 10 years from now?
I've been really thinking about that recently, as I hope in the process of starting medical school, and knowing that my time will be less limited as I enter. As you saw with your, I saw something about your 6-figure business when you enter medical school and trying to excel and take it to the next level as well. So helping students excel in the MCAT, like obviously I'm very good at it and I enjoy it, but that's really not my passion. My passion is to tap into where students are great, or where they find their passion, and then let them just do what they need to do and not need anybody else, whether it's the MCAT, whether it's medicine, whether it's volunteering, whether it's shadowing. It all kind of requires the same thing. So that's my passion, is to help students become the best version of themselves. So I'm in the process right now. I have my first presentation next Friday at Wayne State University, which I'm excited for, in regards to speaking to larger pre-medical audiences. And then I'm planning to speak throughout the US in these next 4 to 6 months, really develop a program to help students streamline from junior or senior in high school into medical school, and create this hybrid atmosphere of this motivational Gary V with this professor academics, and bring them together and kind of create that culture of I can do anything. Watch me as I flourish, and let's all do this together and really bring each other up. That's my goal with this, is to see how many students can be the best version of themselves.
Absolutely. And I'm willing to bet that after you crush your USMLE, you're going to be the USMLE motivator, the board motivator. And
That's
so
the goal. That's the next goal. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I see it. I see it. You're going to crush it. I have no doubt in my mind.
Thank you.
Tell me where people can contact you. Do personal tutoring for the MCAT?
Yeah. So I work actually through Exam Krackers, one of the test prep companies, and I'm their first and only MCAT mentor. So you can reach me at Instagram at MCAT Motivator. If you DM me and you reference this interview, I will give you a free 15-minute consult where we can break down your scheduling, your planning, specific strategies for any sections you need, and we can kind of break it down and further. But yes, of course, I'm doing this full-time, more than full-time, until school starts next year, medical school. So Yeah.
Well, that's
MCAT
huge.
motivator on Instagram.
Thank you for offering that to the viewers. Be
Yeah,
ready for them to come and collect on that.
I'm
And I'm
ready.
gonna put all your contact info right in the bio or in the description, whoever's watching this where. So you can find Zachary there and go annoy him with your 15-minute
Please do.
consultations. I'm sure he'll love it.
Please do.
All right, Zachary, thank you so much for joining me here. This was a blast. I'm going to talk to you a little bit after. Again, if you want to find Zachary, his link's going to be in the bio. He's going to be tagged everywhere. If you like this video, I would really appreciate you guys sharing it. Share it with your friends who are studying for their MCAT. Share it with your friends, colleagues. Drop us a like, drop us a comment, ask us specific questions about the MCAT or the USMLE if you guys are interested in that. I'm happy to answer any questions about medical school. Obviously, I've been through that. Residency, specialties, just about anything. You can find me on Instagram as well, at Dr. J. Feldman. This was an awesome show. Zachary, I think we killed it. I think people are going to get a lot of benefit from this.
Yes. And Dr. J, thank you for having me. And guys, if anyone has any questions, comments, and more importantly, if you have any advice for us, how do you stay motivated? What are some success tips that you use for the MCAT or the USMLEs? I would love to read and I would love to learn. So please post them. And I'm obviously super excited for the 15-minute yelling sessions that we're going to have in the future with all the future students. So thank you, Dr. J.
Love it.
Thank you for watching this video. If you liked what you saw and you want to see the next one, be sure to hit subscribe. The button is either there, or there, or there, or there. And the next video should also be posted on this end screen as well. On behalf of me and my dog, until next time, guys.